Hi there guys, just waiting for a few more people to come back on. Hope you can hear me loud and clear. Alright, well let's get going guys. Now just once again I just want to mention that stream may be buffering a bit on your end. It is on my end as tad. It's just because the upload speed's a little bit slow around where we are. We're slowly going to get that sorted out for you, so no problems about that. Let me know if you can hear me clearly, if everything's coming through clearly, and we'll see how it's going. All right. True, Paul. True, very true, mate. It might be a little bit delayed, so look, I might, if I do, like I said, if I do have to just flick off for a while and just put it onto the laptop and then stream it through my phone, I'll do that. We'll just see how it goes, see if it plugs away, all right? All right, let's get stuck into it then. We might as well get started. Yeah, it's Optus, mate. They're actually shocking around here. I've been testing my upload speeds, and I guarantee you right now it's just dropped down to less than 1 kilobyte per second. Yeah, we've got a few more. Yeah, it's nuts. So ADSL2 I thought would be about 20 kilobytes a second or something like that coming through, up to 15 to 20. I'm getting about 4, and that's what they said it was going to be good, and that's pathetic. So I've gone from cable down to ADSL2, and it just can't perform. The going through the mobile is a lot faster, a hell of a lot faster. We're really pathetic in Australia with our internet speeds, but we'll see how we go. All right, let's get started. So anyone new that's watching this at all, welcome to TradeSetup and the live stream. It's the 16th of November. I just got to remember it might be a bit of an echo. So thanks for joining us. Just remember you can join us on Twitter in the top left-hand corner. I'll be just doing a few things on Twitter as we go. Also Facebook in the top right corner. And just remember, if you can just subscribe to us on YouTube in the bottom right, then you'll get a notification every time we go live on anything at all. How are we going at your end, guys? I'm thinking about just, if you give me a minute, maybe just flicking over to the laptop, because this is just, it really isn't good enough. I think it's just a bit too, it's just dropping out. It seems to be buffering on my end all the time, so, and on the mobile as well. All right, I'll put the markets up. Just bear with me. I'll just set the laptop up. So just give me about a minute. how we going there, guys? It's still a bit... Alright, if you give me just a second, I'm going to set up... Well... Okay, is it coming through okay there, Paul? No, it's not. Alright, guys. Bear with me a second. I'm just going to probably open up the stream on the other... I'm just going to put it on the desktop now, and then we'll get active again. So just be a sec there, guys. Just bear with me. I'll probably log off and on again. We'll just plug away here. I'm having problems with the second screen on the other computer. It's just a bit of a debacle, but we'll see. All right, welcome Nando. How are you, mate? Alan, hope we're going well. All right, I might just refresh my... That's not even working, is it? Let me deconnect that. All right. Sorry guys, just be 1 minute. Does everyone else having internet problems? Or is it just me? So I get my phone logged in, and then we'll be right to go, hopefully. I reckon it's actually not too bad. All right, let's show that. Let's see how that's going. All right, welcome guys. A little bit to talk about today. The markets last night, as we know, got sold off a bit in the US, but we actually surprisingly held up. I don't know if anyone watches the SPY and what it does overnight. I normally find the 30-minute chart just to get a bit of an idea of the action from intra-session, so what it did yesterday day and then what it did overnight through the European and the US sessions. Now in the US, they actually, well, I think the US is getting sold off into the close and sort of got sold down a bit. The actual SPY held up and closed higher than what Thanks, Nando. Yeah, I'm going to get in trouble. So in the SPY actually bounced a little bit into the close, and it held up on some good support, which I think it tested earlier on the session, in the day session. So it wasn't too bad a close. I think it was looking okay. what I'm looking for now, really on the spice, just see if we can hold up on that support level. I can't exactly remember where it was, what level. I haven't got the chart up, but see if we can build a higher low and just get pressure on the upside again, because we've had a decent old sell-off, not as good as the US. US, like we said before on Monday, it's probably a lot of momentum traders, which are just turn their call, or probably a lot of profit taking. You also got earnings season coming to a bit of an end. Interest rates, there's still the outlook for interest rates is not too bad. They're not. Every now and then the US is getting sold off a bit, the US dollar, because the data coming through on inflationary data anyway is not as strong. So there's a lot of it's just leaving a lot of punters. Some are thinking that it's going up. There's going to be interest rate rises are quite solid. Inflation's going up, and some are thinking it's not good enough. Inflationary figures are not good enough. But last night they had some half decent inflation numbers out of retail, and I think CPI, which were a little bit better than expected. So that's the US dollar was getting hammered a bit prior to that number coming out, and then it sort of bounced. So back to I think it was down 3% at one stage, and then it bounced back to down 0.03 or 0.3%. So it wasn't too bad a finish in the end. So all that said, I think the bonds, you'll see the yield curve on the bonds is flattening a bit, which means the longer dated bonds, they may be factoring in more rate rises longer term rather than just the shorter term, which is going to be it's probably going to be a bit of a problem for equities if the longer term view starts holding, and they're looking at not just a rate rise in December, but potentially longer term of being a consistent, maybe a couple more next year. Like they said that previously. They said probably maybe 2 next year or something like that. Good luck with that. I get RSI in my fingers there, John. I had a dad joke for you. Was it you that was asking for a dad joke? But now it's just gone out the window. So it'll be interesting to see how that. I think a lot of it, as you're saying, that if we see potential interest rates rises, yields in the US rising, you probably get a decent enough correction. There's a lot of profit to be sitting there and booked in the US after this big run. But in essence, it still doesn't mean, and we had a look at the charts on Monday, we'll tick over them now in the US, and they're still looking positive. I mean, even with these corrections, it's still looking positive. Just click that in. So we've got the Dow, not positive as such, but still on an uptrend. So this could just be a bit of corrective action like we saw previously back in August. Through August, we may just get that type of corrected and then off we go again. FTSE and the DAX are a little bit different, obviously. The FTSE's still got a few Brexit issues to get through. Dav can be my scribe on the other end. I'll get on the phone, see if he's fast enough typing. So the FTSE's, you can see it looks like it's going sideways a bit, but it's still up at new highs. It's just ticked over new highs. Well, I think it did. Well, no, it fell short a bit. So the highs were up here at 675, say 76 even. It fell a few points short, about 40 points short at the beginning of October. So that's backing off there. But don't be surprised if that holds a higher low. You can see that's one move down, and it's rolled over, made that little lower high, and then turn around and wash these traders out from October and just blast them back out of the water as it makes new highs. Still, the key level is down at 72. So it's got a long way just to bring in some shorts, as people try to second guess the market and then blow them back out of the water. But we'll see. They've still got those Brexit issues, I think, how all that's going to go. And now they've got Prime Minister May is her leadership's into question. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. So what else we've got? DAX. Let's take a look at the DAX. They got hammered last week. A couple of sessions got hammered a bit. But then again, you can see that this little blowout to the top, you probably expect it to get sold down a bit of profit taking there. But you can see that selling pressure is pushing it towards that oversold mark. But it's still in an uptrend. We've had a good correction there. Look at the weeklies. Good correction after making this. This was a good leg up. Hit 13,000, corrected down to 12, and we've just taken out those highs up to 13.5 or thereabouts. So it could just be, a bit of a pullback on its way higher. So yeah, there's not much to, I guess, if anyone heard about Livewire or it's Livewire, the news service I was talking about the other day, probably a week or so ago, they come up with a good article. It was emailed to me about. I'll see if I can find it. I probably can't find it, to be honest. No, actually, I'll shut down my. But if you get onto that, they've got some really good articles, and they were talking about the size and the moves. You know, when there's a bull market and the corrections and all that sort of thing, and comparatively, the sort of bull run we've had compared to history is really not much at all. So we could be in our market, especially not so much overseas, but more the ASX. Is actually not so bad at all, and we're probably the one market that hasn't made all-time highs again since the GFC, still struggling a bit. So there could be a bit of major rotation. It'd be interesting to see. I know that's probably doesn't happen often, but out of the US, you know, as markets or traders or funds look to place money, push their money. If you've got low interest, the US dollar's higher and the Aussie's lower, there's potential to buy into the Aussie dollar. Selling US dollars, buying into Aussie, and if they do that as a bit of a what's that called? The trade called the carry trade in currencies, where they get out of one into the other currencies, but they've got to put their money somewhere. They've got to put it to work while it's in Aussie dollars, and potentially is good. There could be some good potential buying into Aussie equities, where they are anyway. So, yeah, I haven't actually looked at those, Paul. It's good to see you watching them. I find it interesting, that website. I just spoke to a mate of mine, Dave, you'll actually know him, Peter, who's his friend runs that. So it's interesting how they run. But yeah, it's good. Now, let's just see where we're at the moment. What are we down? Well, we're pretty much break even from where we finished yesterday. So after what the US did last night, that's not too bad on our market. And it's showing, well, I personally think it could be showing a bit of strength. If we get the XJO up, let me just get the XJO. We're getting there. We're coming through. We're still holding up. So that's the XJO there. And it looks a bit like the DAX. So let's look at the weekly actually. So I would suggest if we go right back here. So this is the move. When was that? That was 2009. We lifted up. And then we've been picking up since then. So that was a GFC which pushed us straight down, and that was a turning point at the start of 2009. Bounced off there, bit of correction, lower, made that high low, and then we've got this leg up from basically in here at around 3,800. That took us up to 6,000, and then we've had a good correction through 2015 to the start of 2016. This is a weekly chart, don't forget. If this is a beginning of another leg up, or we're right at that point now, we've touched at this 6,000 level a couple of times. And it's only just recently we popped through. So I don't mind. I tend to think the ASX or the XJO is quite good with its levels. If it's going to break a level, a lot of the times when you're going with the trend, is what I'm trying to say. I'll spit it out eventually. So you got the MAs up. We've just broken through 6,000. We may just be drop it down to the daily with a bit of correction action there and see if we can build that high low around here. And that could take us back up through 60, 50 on our way to the all-time highs, which are right up at 68.51. Long way to go, but just by looking at that chart there, we've got that big sell-off, reacted down towards 32. Well, I think it was 32, even lower, that towards 3,000. Then we had that high low here. We've just had a high low, and if you extrapolate this leg up, what's that, 4,000 to 6,000, and take it, say, from around 5,000, that takes us up towards the highs, 7,000 or thereabouts. So this leg could go on for a while. It would be interesting, is what I'm trying to say. But just remember, if that's the case, and a lot of people are expecting that sell-off because we're going to follow the US, don't be surprised if we don't. There could be a lot of opportunity on the long side as we get a lot of sellers coming in and they just keep getting squeezed out of the market. Can everyone see my charts there? I just remembered something that I forgot last week. Let me go across here. That's better. That's better. Fellow in particular. Is that Charlie Aiken? Just reading it there. I don't know if he's any... I don't... If that's Charlie Aiken, is that the one you're talking about there? But yeah, there we go. So that's my view on the ASX. I mean, it's going up. There's no reason to be phased just yet. It's a bit of heat coming out of the market. It's pulling back, sort of that reversion to the mean. It's coming back to the MAs. If you go back, the daily's up, the weekly charts are up. It's just a bit of heat coming out, like we said. If it can hold a high low around here and start blasting up back up to new highs, well, recent highs since 2009, that'd be good to see. So I think there could be some opportunity out there. Now let's talk about what we've got recently. We just got out of APT today. I don't know where that is at the moment. Yeah, so it gapped down. It was a bit surprising how it opened down a bit weak through 33, which is where our remaining risk was. It did pop back up, and then it's just back down again to that 33 zone. So we'll see how this one plays out. I mean, the major swing low or swing high or whatever you want to see, high or low, is just above 5 at 510 thereabouts. But I just didn't expect this kind of weakness. I thought if we were going to pop up, from low to high, we've got a bit further to go. If we saw weakness, I'd rather be out and reassessing it than anything else. So that's it for APT. We locked in some good gains on that, which can't complain about. What else have we got? CKF. Now, Paul, I got your email on CKF, and we'll take a look at that. I want to have a bit of a chat. I think it's a good one to talk about too. I think it's a great one to talk about. I mean, Dav and I had differing opinions, so we'll see who's going to turn out right on that one. The challenge is in there. Got a 6-pack banking on it. I'm going to make him come down here if I'm right. Maybe a bottle of wine instead. So we'll talk about that in a sec. We've still got, I've got to remember what we've got. TAW. Now, TAW just had a bit of a sell-off the last few days. Let's see if that can continue on through these highs. The trend is still up. The longer-term trend looks good, and we're going to have potentially some resistance up towards that 47.50 mark. Sorry guys, it's my daughter you can hear just coming in there. TAW, good. MGE, it ticked over $3 yesterday, 301. We've tightened the stop up on that one. The remaining risk on that one till, where are we? 295. So we took a partial at 294. We've got the remaining risk at 295. I feel that should keep going. It seems to be struggling just up at these highs. It's been a good little run up to $3. So we'll just wait and see how it's looking a bit extended up here. A bit heavy, as you'd say. But that's still hanging in there quite nicely. To RMD was the other one that kicked on. So what we've got that little press up through 11. We took our partial 11.15. That backed off to just below 10.75, and it's up and away again. And so that's looking quite good. And the last one is actually NIA. So that was a 768 entry. It's at 69 at the moment. It's more the weekly that I actually like. I like this. It's had that little spike up, correction lower, washed out these lows, spiked up again, held a higher low, starting to hold. It's contracting a bit. It's probably an aggressive entry, but the fact is it looks like the strength is on the buy side. As we get these lower highs pressing down, we've got a support zone around 57.5, and that's just kicked up. So that's where we got in, and just see if we can hold this level around there. You can see it's been these little tails. It's probably a bit harder to see. A few tails. So there's a bit of buying support around that 70, so we'll see if that can continue up. Just bear with me a second here, guys. Just be 1 minute. All right, back guys, sorry about that. I'm gonna feed the little beast there. Alrighty, so we got Nia. Yeah, I reckon that one, it's still looking good for me. It's just sort of grinding lower. It's just touched below 70, which has been rejected a couple of times now. So we'll see if that gets rejected into the end of the day. Probably, he probably thinks more because of the US than anything else, but we'll see. Yeah, that was me normally crying there. That sounds like me anyway. Now, let's get on to CKF, Collins Food. I just want to have a bit of a chat with that. Have a bit of a chat about that one. Now, if anyone's following us on the alerts, we did send an alert out about this a little while ago, just showing that it wasn't really a buy alert, but it was showing that prices in contraction. Go back to the weekly. The weekly is the actual chart that I really like. You can see this market is definitely, it's on its way higher. All right. So we sent out an alert about this. I think it was probably last week. Yeah, probably last week, I think. Just saying what we want to see, and then basically I was looking at it the other day, and I thought it was worth a buy because it's got smaller risk, and there was a couple of reasons why I did like it. I mean, the main reason is I'm probably preempting a move up through sort of that key level. Let's just draw it up. I should just get rid of that. Let me just go. There we go. Let's get my drawing tool up. All right. So what I'm looking at on the weekly is more just trying to follow that trend up. I really like the structure. I like the contraction in here. You're holding a major higher low, and that's really confirmed once we get up through this high. If I can draw that. So it's pretty clear that trend's heading higher. We've got that price contracting, so we've got some lower highs on the weekly. So you get a little lower high here. The market's worked down. It's had 1, 2, 3. Now, if you notice, the market does that. Well, the characteristics of actually this trade or of CKF, this stock, does that quite a bit. So you can see that it has a little run up, and then you have a corrective action with a lower high, and it pushes back down. So it's that reversion to the mean. It's in that 2 legs, and then you start holding or even if we just go on a small scale, you can see it was just here as well. So it does it quite often. And then this is contracting. You've got a major higher low on the weekly basis. Then it starts working its way up. So that's really nice price action. You can see it was same sort of contraction here. What I'm really doing is preempting a move like this through the key level. So that for me is really the key level, just below around that 625, 623. Excuse me. This is a CKF, Paul. This is what I think you emailed me about. The alert we just sent through, the buy that's just triggered. I think it was yesterday at 594. It's about 590 at the moment. We did get up to 596 or 7 up to close, I think, yesterday. So, yeah, so this is a longer term price action I like, and I'm looking for this sort of contractive action and then extend into a new leg higher. I'm looking for that to repeat itself, and we've got we're at the tail end of that actually happening now. Well, I think we are anyway. So you can see very similar price action, that secondary move down. Then we've had this double bottom, or we found support around that $5 mark. It's pressed up off that support, just like it did. I probably didn't so much just in here. This is a bit slightly different. We pressed up, and then we've got this, again, we've got that second leg, those 2 sort of moves lower, and we're just starting to press up again. So if you go down to the daily chart, so what I'm looking for is really that, I like that entry on the weekly. So I like the weekly charts, and I like what I'm seeing. It's more of the price action from the daily. I'm just got to go back and draw that up again. So just bearing in mind what we're looking at on the weekly. Just go back here. We're sort of focusing down on this this most recent price action. So we've got the 1, 2 legs down. We're starting to lift 1, 2 legs down. So you presume that we're starting to lift there. So if you're looking at that daily, you can just see we've got this washout of that level. Well, that's not what I wanted, was it? So we've got this washout. You can see that support zone through there. We've just seen it bounce off there with a lower high, wash out, and then started to lift. And we just started to chop around here, holding some minor higher lows there, and that was our entry just through there. So what we're looking for is really that longer term weekly pressure to kick up. Does that make sense there? So it's more, yeah, not this one on, not on this one, Paul. It's mainly because of what the recent history on the price action's done. Normally, you know, this is probably a bit more aggressive, but I think taking that entry there, I feel if you held your risk just below that, which is what I think we've got it at 560, it's worth a shot because of the long-term price action and because of that, you know, trying to jump in at a nice prime time, probably preempting that break up. Obviously, you'd be confirmed if we get up to 615, you know, go through 605 through around 610, 15, I think that'll be confirmed that it's on its way higher. It could chop around here. I mean, it could be completely wrong. Stops us out, heads a bit lower. But just going from recent action on the weekly especially, I think we're in a nice little prime position. I like seeing, you can see how it extends to the highs, 1, 2 low, just as it washes out a few people, a few late buys, starts lifting again with higher lows, and we got that extension up on the weekly chart. That was into the end of 2016. Then we got those couple of legs lower, 1, 2, and then we started to hold. So buyers started stepping in again, and we've just done the same sort of thing. 1, 2, and we're starting to lift again on the daily. And that pressure down is being soaked up by the buyers, and we've got a little washout here of the previous low, like we just showed you on the daily. You can see it just in here, that little washout of the previous lows through 565. And we're just starting to show signs of popping up again. It may be a bit of an aggressive entry, but I think there's merit to it, and it's good because you can have some small risk trying to get the weekly trend behind you. Does that make sense? But we'll see how it goes. It could chop me around. The weekly trend could still hold, stop us out, and we get the entry later on. We might get the entry like something like in here, where you can see the high low, and then we just get that acceleration. So I'm looking to take an opportunity that we're going to preempt that acceleration higher and bust through 625, maybe trade up to $7, and you know, see if we can book a nice little gain on that one. But at the moment, it's still holding 594, I think it was on the entry. Yeah, I said that. It's 594. So we'll see it just dropped off a bit like it did on the open today. It's actually opened pretty good, up towards $6, 598, I think. Sold off just when the retail traders just sold off into it, and just see if they can pop up now into the close today. If we can get back up towards that 598 region, and especially if we get a pop tonight in the US, I think that'll go on with it, and we'll get it through that 620 zone, 615 to 620. Does that make sense there, guys? Any questions just on what we're looking at there? Like I said, it's probably not my usual style, but I think the weekly trends are usually the strongest, and what I'm trying to do is anticipate that daily point where it's just going to, you know, anticipate the buying pressure and see if we can drag in some more buyers. And it's starting to do that now, but look, we may have to get a bit of a pullback, yeah, and then go again, but we'll see. All right, now if any questions on that, I know it's probably still a tad of a delay. All right, so I'm just listening to myself on the phone. All right, now let's get into it. So feel free to put in some, we've already got one, what are we looking at first? John? No. Paul? John, WPL. Well, we'll start off with WPL then. Any more that you want to take a look at, just chuck them in the chat and we'll get into it. Before my daughter gets hungry again and comes back down. Oh, doesn't look that great. Look at that massive selling volume through there a couple of days ago. Ooh, you can see what that was. All right, Woodside's an interesting one. Let's just have a look. I just want to look at something first. Ria. All right, no worries. So Woodside, let's look at the. Just want to see what the sector's doing, because it was well and truly in a downtrend, and I think a lot of people with this little punch up to $47 on oil, so $57 on oil, were probably, you can see that was starting to get preempted there. It went near vertical and it was getting really stretched right up into this resistance at around $34. That's on Woodside anyway. And then when oil's got sold off a bit and we've got Saudi problems, a few little issues, probably profit taking as well, it's gapped down quite, and you can see that heavy volume that's come through a couple of days ago. You know, when it gapped down, and then yesterday it's actually opened lower, below 30.50. So we'll see what the actual. Just want to take a look at the sector at the moment. I have to go over here. I'm going to find where they put them. That's energy. That's not right, is it? Oh, there you go. So that's loaded. It actually, that looks a bit better. I mean, you look at the daily chart, it doesn't look too bad. And we may be, but the problem is it's had that real appreciation in price. It's really gone on quite strong up to 104, 105. Still holding higher lows, and that's a decent, amount of heat to come out of that market. It may make that lower high in here and then push down again and correct more. And it might be more of a longer term macro correction. It may take a bit of time to play out. Down to the weekly, this is what I'm not too keen on, that weekly structure. And it looks like it's sort of repeating itself. Now that grind higher after these solid moves down, I know it's taken a fair bit of time and the dynamics could change, but you can see that grind high, it's just pressed up and it's dragged a lot of buying in, and then it could just be cleaning them back out again, and we could get that major lower high on the weekly in the sector, and then everyone just sort of exiting again as we get it. Crude oil selling off a bit. Let me just draw this up a bit. Is that making sense? I'm probably not making sense myself. So you've had this move up. Whoop. This move up, and then it's had, you can see the sell-off and this little contraction lower. They've been quite hard. The sell-offs were quite hard. Are we going to see that again, or is this towards, pretty much the tail end of a good sell-off in crude since, it's right from 2010, 11, 12. Is that right? Let's go back to the monthly. So that's just pressed down. Yeah, since, I guess you'd say from the GFC, it was struggling. 2008, the GFC, when it had that massive bull run up to, that's 20,000. That's when crude, I think, was hitting 145 a barrel. Was going nuts. And then, of course, that's not sustainable. It had a big sell-off and it appreciated through 2009, struggled. This is on the sector anyway, and then it's sort of been sold off ever since. Now, we'll just take that on the, looking back at this chart. Has it got further to go? I don't know. Or is this sort of getting towards the end of that move lower from the weeklies? It's had a good move lower, tried to go a bit higher, contracting with higher lows, and that was just more of that bit of a pullback on the longer term weekly charts, a bit of a bounce, and then heavy selling again. And whether we're getting a bit of a bounce here and we got some more selling to come, or whether it comes back down and retests down towards 70, I don't know. But yeah, it just looks like it's getting the pressure on the upside. You can see that buying pressure pushing it up. It's not really going anywhere in context of this move down, which is this major move down here. You've just got this grind high, So that's not convincing for me at all. That's in the sector. So if you go back to, is it Woodside? Just looking at the sector, are we doing a bit of the same sort of action? We've had Woodside on, this is the weekly chart, by the way. Just get my charts up here. Do we still have a lot of waiting to do? So on Woodside, you've had this move down, and you have this grind higher, a bit like, previously when the sector was just grinding its way higher. And then you can see that selling, really starting to accelerate on the way down. And then you get into this grind action as we start to pull back, we start correcting. We're correcting this leg down. So this is your leg down from highs to lows. And we're really just correcting that at the moment. Does it make sense? So we've had this little pop up. That's your key level around that 34, and we're just failing, and we've got some heavy selling just recently. So we're failing to get up to those previous highs at 34. We've taken up that, we'll go back down to the daily in a second. You can see this little anchor in here. We've just taken that out with this move down, and we tried to pop back up, and we could be now starting to resume that longer term trend down. We could be another major leg down, or who knows where we're going to go to from there. But it all, I guess it comes down to what crude oil's doing and what's going to happen. And we're going to have a bit of a back off, go back down below $50, or $50 going to provide some sort of support. I know longer term OPEC are trying to buy the price, but the US, US inventories, they're sort of a bit conflicting with the overall picture. So it'd be interesting to see how that all goes. So going down to the daily, this is what I see as a tad of a problem on Woodside. Oh, look, for me, it's a really conflicting story. You can see that move up there. This was your anchor. Actually, I'm just going to draw that up in a different... So your anchor's through here. You see the market pressed up and then pushed down, and we've got that key resistance up at 34. Then we started to press down, so we busted through that anchor. We don't like to see that if you're a bull. And then we've tried to head back up, and that was really a blowout type of a move. It wasn't, it was a strong move up. You could have made some money off it, but longer term, that's not, that for me is starting to look like a bit of a lower high in the longer term time frame. I'm expecting more of, that's the move up here. That's that pullback. I'm expecting more of maybe lower highs to play out and then some more selling to come out. But where it goes to from there, whether it just goes down to 28.50 or whether it goes to this longer term lows down at 24, who knows? Does that make sense? So I just think if you're looking to buy it, I would be inclined just to wait, because I think the longer term pressure is quite heavy. It's just this shorter term move up is a bit more conflicting with what the weekly charts are telling me. Does that make sense there, John? So yeah, either way, I'll just be sitting there watching that for now. I'm interested in crude. I'm interested in the energy sector, because I just think that crude's been down here for so long, and it could be starting to lift, but the overall sector is not showing me that. It's showing me that it could be potentially some more weakness longer term. But like I said, is it going to be a serious leg down, or is it just going to go retest the lows? If we see it retest the lows and start holding a higher low again on the sector, and in particular some of these stocks like Woodside, Santos and all that, then that's where you'd be looking for the opportunity. What do we got next? RIA. Yeah, it's on its way high on the daily, weekly. Not much to say there, Zeng. Have you got a position on that one? Are you jumping into this one? You can see this is the longer term trend's well and truly established. Looking at it from a risk perspective, what I would do and how I would analyze this. So definitely if you're looking to buy, you're on the right side of the market. Market's heading higher, probably a bit late just at the moment. I wouldn't buy it now. And if you just analyze it from the weekly basis, where an opportunity could lie. Now for me, you can see that's quite a clear level, and then we've had some, we've had some consolidation through there, even a lower low, and then it started to lift again. That was, whether that's just holding that low, and this is all part of the same trend up, which if you measure it, it's probably about, actually, let's just draw that in a different color. So whether that's your first leg up, that's quite clear. Corrective action there, even that lower low just in here. And whether that's a leg up or that's your leg up. If that's the case, they're fairly even. I would expect more of a macro correction. And when we say macro correction, I mean something that's pushed up and you start to get some lower highs, and the market just works its way down, and then you start to look for where it's going to turn. And then, like we see, 1/3 to 2/3, it could be, between 50 and $55. So it could have a fair bit to correct if it's a macro correction. So all I would probably be looking at right now is really that it's getting a bit late in the trend, maybe towards the end, and you might have to get that weekly rollover. Who knows? You are starting to get a bit extended on the weekly chart, so it's sort of all matching up where it could be due for a bit of a correction, a longer term correction. Now the dailies, it's sort of the same, and even if you look at sort of make it a bit thicker. If you look at this here, that's a sort of a technical pattern. That's your divergence. Now I don't look at that a lot, obviously, but I know there's people who do. There's retail traders. There's even professional traders. Just look at it as an opportunity. If you've rode this leg up here, you'd probably start to be getting a bit nervous, even if you had an entry just around here. You're sitting on some gains. You're probably late into the trade. You probably realise that. You probably know that you've got your risk. You can't risk too much on that, because if this just goes into a macro correction, you're taking on way too much risk. Does that make sense? Because you could just be watching this thing just tip over all the way back down to, like we said, 60, even lower. Was that it? Anyway, so if it goes into macro corrective, you don't want to be holding along. Does that make sense? But either way, Zeng, it's good to see you don't have a position. It looks like it's a great trend if you're just watching that, and that's probably a good one just to look at and start. Look, let's just put it on as an alert as such, or just put it on a watch list and just see what happens to it. RSI, no, it's a stochastic. I'll look at the stochastic. So I think it's a stochastic 11 period stochastic. I mean, 14 or 11, similar type of thing. Brandy that's great. So is that making sense? Just what I'm talking about on that one there? Like I said, it'd be interesting to see if we can watch this one, just see what happens, whether this is starting to get extended. I mean, the daily and the weekly are both looking extended. Sooner or later, if you're sitting on profits on this one, longer term or shorter term, you'd probably be thinking twice, or you might want to lock something in. So I'm thinking it's, like we say, how much buy supply is still left to keep pushing this price higher, or is it all being used up on the, on the longer term move up, on this longer term move? Now what else we got? EDE. I'm hoping, how long is big going to climb higher? Big is a big annoying one. Let's look at EDE and I'll look at big. So that's your weekly. I mean, that weekly is kind of a horrible chart. The only thing it's looking extended, but like you said, you're not trying to pick a bottom. You're trying to wait till you see confirmation. Sure, that's wrong spelling. So with EDE, we'll just see. We don't need to draw that up. You can see it's had a big press up into that above 34, big pullback. So that's washed out a few of those late buys, decent correction, and it started holding some higher lows and pressed back up into that level, took out the highs, and then we've had this big sell-off, taking out that, the lows around 16, took out that low. So that's not a good sign. So I think for this to start moving higher, it's got a lot of work to do. That's your weekly chart there. It doesn't look great. And on the daily, I mean, there's nothing on the daily just showing for me where I'd want to get in. I'd have to see on this one some higher lows for me, as evidence that buyers are stepping in the selling, and the selling starting to come to an end, where you're starting to get the changing of the guard, where it's moving from a selling focused share price to a buying focused. So the buyers are starting to win out, but it looks like the buyers are just hanging about. It's going to be a lot of fuel on the sidelines ready to go in, I'd suggest, with this, look, the way that price action's moved lower. But there's nothing for me that's showing, your key level's right up here, just above 20 on that daily. And there's no higher low. We're not seeing sort of any serious evidence just at the moment. And I think being the weekly, how that's just hammered down to 12, it's going to take a long time just to play out. Now, what was the other one? Big. God, that's great, isn't it? That's annoying. I don't even know what we alerted to this one. I was looking for it. Just sorry, Nando. Look, the good thing is with that one, EDE, it could be in a zone. I'm not saying it is. It just could be in a zone where the selling's been heavy. Even the selling's got to come to an end at some point. and the buyers are going to start to step in, the early time buyers, but it could be coming to your old fundamental value area, where it's coming really nice value down there. Who knows? But for me, I just want to see it. I just want to see those high lows step in. So I want everyone else to buy it to prove to me that it's starting to show some buying pressure, and then I'll jump in. So really all I'm trying to do is just let everyone else do the hard work, the heavy lifting for me. And then I'm trying to risk that, and I don't want to waste my time, excuse me, sitting in that stock when it's doing that work. I'd rather be putting my money to better use somewhere, watching it on the sidelines as, just alerting it. And then once it starts lifting and showing some good signs, then away we go. So we're just talking about EDE, Paul. But this one here, what you're looking at on the screen is BIG, big. Now I'll find out what, I don't know if I've got an alert on this one. I'm sure I did alert it a while ago. I'll just see. BIG, here we go. Where was it? Trading about $1.50. Bugger. So it's over 100% gainer on that one from that alert, but it just didn't play out. So that's the alert from the 29th of September, which is right in here. Look, if we drill in on that one, I mean, who's going to know that was going to happen? Oh, that's a frustrating one. That is anyone? That's an awesome chart. Big. It's a big one, Dav. Now there's your dad joke, whoever was asking. That was pathetic, actually. Big. So just, I think we alerted, so the 29th was somewhere around here, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, just when a secondary pop up. So we were looking at it. Yeah, it was around here. So just when we got, you can see that little contraction there. So you've got to move lower, a pop up, move lower. It just washed out these lows and then it popped up. And around here, that's your higher low that I like to see. That's your little push higher. So ideally for me, probably a prime little entry would have been, which I've missed, of course, would have been just in there, if you can see that. Can anyone see? None of the baby cried. Oh God, talk about easily sidetracked. Work on the jokes. I'm going to go to a website for next Monday. I'm going to find a dad joke website and I'm going to start cracking some good ones. So back to this chart. So big, you can see that's getting up. So we've got that little move up and then you started to get these little lower highs and then the market started to press up. And just when we broke out of that contraction, this is really just in this zone here. You got a couple of days where it went sideways. Well, not sideways. It's sort of slightly backed off. I think it was 3 days of down move. And then we started lifting. And that's where you got this nice appreciation in price. So that's ideally where I would have loved to have entered there. Missed that completely. Don't know why. Maybe it just lacked the volume at that time. Who knows? I think I just missed it completely. So sorry for anyone that's watching alerts, but yeah, that is a beautiful looking chart. But where to from here? Who knows? I mean, that's really powered on strong. It's up at 440 today. Yeah, I think it touched up at 440. Anyway, that looks great. So that would have been a nice entry just through those highs. You know where your risk is. You can really box up your risk. You know exactly where you're going to place it. You're not taking too much. And you can see how we're trying to get it when it's accelerating higher. So we're trying to get it on the rise rather than pull back, buy it on a pullback and just trying to guess where that low is going to be. What we're getting there is evidence. You've got your contraction. You've got your lower lows through here. You've got your higher lows. Sorry, lower highs and higher lows. It's really contracting. And that first move up here is what we're always looking for. Well, not always, apart from CKF. That's ideally what we're looking for because that's your first sign of evidence that buyers are taking control. And then you get that little, maybe reactive move down. You get the 3 days of down, what we saw here. And then once it starts lifting again, we know where we want to enter and away we go. So that was a cracker, that one. Does that make sense there? That was a great one. I hope you got into that one there, Nando. Really did well. Really did well. Let's look at some of the other ones. The other ones, anything else you want to look at, guys? Some of the other ones that... what kicked on with it? Was it that one? WHA? So this had a decent correction now. So a lot of heat's coming out of this market here, out of the price there. It's around $2.04. This is Wattle Health. This is another one we're looking at 97 cents. So that's up, even over 100% now. That's the same type of price action. Actually, if we go, I just want to go here. Just showing the price action again. It's really repetitive. It's really nice. And if you're looking for that type of thing, I'll get a better chart there. Now that's what we're looking for. You can see that price is contracting. Slightly different on this one here. It didn't really make a high low and then bust up, but in essence, it's the same type of thing. You've got, if everyone's read any sort of retail book, any sort of technical analysis book, you know that you've got flags, pennants, all sorts of different, they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. It doesn't really matter because what's happening is the market's heat's coming out of the market. You're putting buyers back on the sidelines and then you're getting them ready to get back in. And as soon as the main thing that's really important, you don't care if it's making, like this one that's pushed down, made a lower high here, held at a lower high here. It hasn't really made too many lower lows. It's more of a retest through here. Did wash out that low and then it's just busted up. The main thing you want to look for is that break up out of contraction. So you're always looking for a break up and then hopefully you get an opportunity to basically buy into it. And that was one there that worked out quite nicely. You know that you got your push up, went sideways for a few days, and then I think that high, if we can show, was 97 higher. So if you bought that through a break at 98, you look at it start to accelerate. So generally the good thing about this, you can go back and just do a bit of research on that type of setup. Look for that style. When you know you're right when they start accelerating, you get a couple of strong days, you know you're on the right side of the market, you know you've got a good entry, you know that there's a lot of other people, there's a lot of buyers starting to flow back into that market and pushing the price higher. So it's a really nice style setup. I'll see you later, Paul. Sorry, mate. Yeah, thanks, mate. We'll speak to you on Monday. Hope you're going well anyway. SBM, let's look at that then. All right, gold, we'll have a look at that in a second. SBM, that's just popped up. I don't mind this. The problem, I'm just trying to think of how to word this, how to structure this. I don't want to put anyone on the wrong side. This type of move up was quite solid, solid move up, corrective action there. This could just be a washout, only because we haven't really retested these lows. We just, it's more like that V-shaped recovery. I don't like seeing that style often, and you can see just when it's popped up through the highs, it got rejected, it sold back down, struggled here. It's making higher lows, and this is on the weekly. This is St. Barbara. It's making the higher lows, and it's just popped out to the top, but you might see, let's just go. I think I'm not, with this one, I'm not overly convinced with gold at the levels where they are. I just think that maybe it could just keep grinding higher. It could get up to the highs. You never know what's going to happen. This could push up to 380 and beyond. It could go anywhere. I'm just not liking that type of price action. You can see it got sold off quite heavily, got bought up again, and that buying action is not really strong. Bang down again and then pop back up, and we may have just washed out these highs, say at 310. And then we've got a down day today. We're down it's only 2.2% at the moment. but it's not showing strength on the upside to me. It's more, you know, going back to the weekly, these higher lows are more conducive of, you know, once we could just come flying straight back down. If gold comes crashing down, if the market comes crashing down, you don't know what's going to happen. It's just not, I don't like that style. I'm trying to, did it again. If we just go and draw that up from here. I'm not, like I said, I'm not, that's had a good move up, had a good corrective action there, and then it's popped back up. But these moves lower, it's coming up here. Look, I don't mind if it could break out there, but I'm sort of looking at this as more a potential secondary leg down. I know we alerted to this recently, but just the way it's going, I'm not too keen on that as a long. I know the strength is up, everything's up. It could be, or it could just keep grinding higher, but I think it could just be capturing a few longs and then squeezing them back out on the downside. So I really would like another test lower before, and then it's rejecting lower prices. So I'd rather see that's that leg up here. We've had that leg down and we're just starting to grind here. I'd rather see it push back down, potentially test. And if it retests like that, and then we get the high lows, I'll be more inclined, because that's some serious buying starting to step back in again. And it's all these people washed out that have bought here. They've been washed back out of the market as it's pushed back down to, say, even around $2, $1.90, $1.80. Don't have to get down to that low there at $1. It's about $1.80. But I would like to see a bit of a test, or take out maybe some of these levels, retest that some, and then buyers start to step back in and then see a high low. If you see that, that's more convincing price action for me than just buying in here and a break. I just think we're starting to get a bit stretched up here, and you can see we're getting to that overbought territory, and it's not going on quite strong. Every time it sort of pops out the high, like it did here, popped out through the high, sold back down, got up, retested the high, sold back down. We popped out through these highs, and we potentially could get sold back down. We could only go as far as 280 and then it heads back up, but just be careful of this one if you want to buy it. I think there's better stocks to buy, to be honest. Well, let's have a look at gold. I haven't got... let me just see if... let's look at, actually, rather than look at gold, let's look at what the gold sector's doing. XGD. Whereas this, on the other hand, is looking better on the weekly anyway. Not so much on the daily. So this is the subsector of gold. All right. Go to the weekly, actually. To be honest, that's your monthly chart, and the weekly charts are looking quite solid. What I do like on this, so that looks like potentially that sector's starting to find some buying again. I do actually like this. So it's a tough one. You can see that the market's, you know, it's pushed down, made a lower low, started retest that low, and started picking up again. Held a higher low here, higher low as we started lifting. We're lifting up higher lows. We pushed all the way back up to 58. That's it's a solid correction there. Maybe this is sort of coinciding with SBM. This one here is it's looking good. It's held this level quite well, and I like the fact that we've got a higher low just in here. So this is your gold subsector. You know, your small cap, or your shares, your gold shares essentially, and what they're doing as a whole. And it looks like it's starting to get on. And this is the weekly chart, so there could be, this one just takes off, pushes through 5,000, maybe up to 5.8, maybe beyond. And if that's the first leg up, and this is nice corrective action, if we take a secondary leg from, say, 34 and extrapolate that out, it could have a long way to go. So there could be, just looking at this sector here, it could be a lot of move to the upside on that one. So I just think maybe SBM's not the best one to look at. What was the other one I was looking at the other day? I can't remember now. I was just having a look at the gold stocks. So that's not looking too bad. Look at this one. This is Dacian Gold, DCN. Not looking too bad. That's your weekly chart. You can see it's pressed down, it's popped back up, held a high low in here, another leg up, pushed back down, tried to retest a major low at $1.80, and it's starting to hold higher lows again. So that's suggesting it's going to attack 235 and break through that. That's not looking bad. Go back to the weekly charts. Saracen is another one we've followed in the past. You know, same sort of thing. It's been grinding high. I think it's looking more top heavy than anything just up here. Northern Star. I mean, that's just been holding higher lows. It's getting right back up to those highs just below $6. That's looking quite good. You know, if we get a bit of a pullback, build that high low on the weekly, and we can get an entry from the daily, potentially something like this, that could be a goer. Well, I think it's going to be a goer anyway. SPM we've looked at. Oz. Was it Perseus? That's your weekly on Oz Minerals. Oz Miserables, as people call it. AQG. Yeah, AQG is not as convincing. Yeah, look, that's not looking too good. That's still, it could be finding some support around $2, but that's not half as good as the other charts we just looked at. Evolution Mining, see what this one's looking. That's, you know, very similar. It's starting to press up. You know, just remembering in respect to the other ones, it's looking good. I think there's some good potential in that. TAM. There we go. Perseus might have been the one I was looking at recently. No, not so much on Perseus either. All right, so there's just a few gold ones there that we look at. There could be a lot more. But yeah, I think there's potential if we actually look at GOLD. GOLD is another gold ETF on the ASX. And look at that. That's looking nice too. I don't mind that chart at all. I like this structure. If we just go back a bit. That's not what I want to do. Best fit. If we just quickly draw that up. I think we're starting to see some pressure to the upside. So we've had the market find support there, bounced off, pushed through it, got choppy through here, and then we started holding this support zone here, and you can see the market's lifted, took out some of these highs. With that move up, pushed back down, you know, built another high low just in here, and we pressed up. And then what we're doing now is just pushing back down. So we're roughly in a prime position. You can see through here to be another high low and just continue that move up. If that's the case, I would expect, you know, this little break up through here. Well, look, that's looking good. That's your GOLD, so that's showing some good signs that we're going to potentially on this ETF start heading towards that 17,750. Does that make sense here, guys? But it's, yeah, I like it. It's looking good. BGA. All right, let's finish it off. We'll look at BGA and then just finish it there, I'd suggest. Overvalued. It's right up in a spot. We're on a weekly chart. I mean, it's looking like for me, that's a nice little entry through 750 with risk just below, what's that low? 712. So that's, you know, just a continuation trade on BGA. This is bigger cheese. You know, continuation trade. So there you'd be targeting up towards 8. But just remembering that weekly, this is a washout of a key longer term zone up towards those highs at 813. That high is probably right, smack 815. So going back to the daily, that's your 815 high. That's a washout of previous longer term high on the weekly. So here, what are we doing? Are we gonna? It's right up there. So it's for me, it's more of a low probability trade, but we'll see. It could. I mean, nothing to say. This just can't keep going on with it. But I think it could be right then. It could be looking a bit overvalued at the moment. It's had a good leg up from way down at $4. Right, pretty much the start of all of this year, it's been heading higher. We're getting to a spot now where you've got to have concerns if you are long here, or long throughout this move up, or even way back here. You know, if you bought it way back in 2015 when you saw this rally up, you're still holding it. You held a lot of heat through 2016 when it got smashed back down to $4, and then you saw it coming back up here. Are you going to look at that as a potential double top? Are you going to look at to take some off if you've got take some risk off the table, lock in some gains? Who knows what people are going to do, but I think we're getting up into that area where it could be. The daily's not saying that. The weekly's still heading higher. So everything's heading higher. It's just that that zone there could be, we could find a bit of reaction off that zone, but it's not going to show until we break through. I'd suggest down through that low there at $7. Actually, if we just draw that up. So if I was to watch this one here, my first heads up would be, nothing wrong with that entry, by the way. We haven't, with this little entry through here, you can see we're getting that squeeze to the upside. It's just there's that key zone at $8 or $8.15, and you probably know that you could be running into a fair bit of selling up there, or selling pressure. Good little setup. Weekly's up, daily's up. You know exactly where your risk is going to be. But if we see this move down through this trend line, then I'd be concerned that we're not going to push down, start holding a lower high, and then heading south again. Does that make sense? All right, we'll probably have to finish it up there, guys. Sorry about all the confusion at the start. Sorry about all the mucking around. I'm going to have to get it organised for Monday to make sure I'm just going to go straight onto the laptop and stream through the phone. It seems to be a lot more stable, the internet through there, than having the ASX200 through Optus. I think they need to lift their game a bit. Our whole industry in that needs to lift their game. The internet's shocking over here, especially when you see and you talk to people from overseas. Anyway, we'll get it organised for Monday. Thanks for joining me, and we'll speak to you then. Have a great weekend, guys. Cheers and bye.